In July 2005, fishermen pulled a laptop from a river in Pennsylvania. The computer belonged to a missing district attorney named Ray Gricar. But when investigators examined it, they discovered something strange. The hard drive was gone. Someone had physically removed it before the laptop ended up in the river. 3 months earlier, Ray had simply vanished. He left behind his car, his cell phone, his wallet, and nearly every answer investigators would spend the next 2 decades searching for. This week on Find My Killer, we're discussing the mysterious disappearance and presumed death of Ray Gricar. Before we begin, if you enjoy this podcast and want to support the show, you can listen to episodes early and ad-free on Patreon. Just visit patreon.com/findmykiller. You can also support the show by subscribing and leaving a positive review. Ray was born in Cleveland, Ohio in 1945 and grew up in the city's Collinwood neighborhood, attending the Gilmore Academy, a prestigious Catholic school in Gates Mills. After graduation, he enrolled at the University of Dayton, where he became interested in studying law after working as an intern for the prosecutor's office. That's also where he met his future wife, Barbara Gray. After finishing his undergrad, Ray's future was as bright as ever. He and Barbara moved back to Cleveland and got married in 1969. Ray also enrolled at Case Western Reserve University School of Law, where he would eventually obtain his Juris Doctor. Then in 1978, he and Barbara had more exciting news. They had officially adopted a baby girl named Lara. For the next 2 years, life was good. Ray took a job as a prosecutor for Cuyahoga County. He and Barbara were happily married, and they both enjoyed being new parents. He was a hard worker, smart, and not afraid to stand up for justice and what he believed was the right thing to do. In 1980, Barbara was offered a job at Penn State, and the couple moved to State College, Pennsylvania. The original plan was for Ray to stay home with Lara while Barbara worked. But when the Center County District Attorney offered Ray an assistant prosecutor position, he couldn't say no. He worked for the office for the next couple of years and was very highly regarded by his colleagues. Then in 1985, the incumbent district attorney chose not to run for re-election, and Ray decided to throw his hat in the ring and ran for the open position, winning it by a margin of just 600 votes. While Ray's professional career was taking off, by 1991, things had started to change in his personal life. He and Barbara had filed for divorce and agreed to amicably co-parent Lara. He remarried once in 1996, then got divorced again, all while serving as the district attorney for Center County, a position he would be reelected to 4 consecutive times: 1989, 1993, 1997, and 2001. Sometime between 2002 and 2003, Ray found love again with a colleague in the DA's office, Patty Fornicola. Ray moved in with Patty at her childhood home in Bellefonte, Pennsylvania, and they lived there together until he disappeared in 2005. At 59 years old, Ray's life seemed completely normal and happy. He was a successful attorney, a father, and although he was described as a fairly private person, he was also highly respected by people. He definitely wasn't someone viewed as reckless or impulsive. Ray was a man of his word and made decisions very methodically. There was absolutely nothing about his life suggesting he might disappear one day in 2005. On Friday, April 15th, 2005, Most people who hadn't filed their taxes were scrambling to get it done before the deadline. But Ray had other plans. At first, he decided to take a half day at work. He had been very busy lately and never really took much time off. But when he woke up that morning, he called his office to say he wouldn't be coming in at all. At around 11:30 that morning, Ray called Patty to let her know that he was planning to take a drive through the Brush Valley area. Patty didn't think twice about it because she knew he liked to take long drives and road trips in his free time. It was what he did to unwind and disconnect from the real world for a couple of hours. She also knew he had been working hard, and it seemed to be catching up to him. He had started taking cat naps after work and complained about feeling exhausted, no matter how many hours of sleep he got at night. During the brief call, he mentioned that he wouldn't be home until late that night, so he wouldn't be able to take their dog, Honey, out. So Patty told him not to worry. She would be home a little earlier to let her outside. That was the last time she spoke to him. Sometime while Ray was out driving on Pennsylvania Route 192, a reporter from the Center Daily Times was trying to reach him for a comment about a 16-year-old offender he had charged as an adult and was now seeking to have his case transferred to juvenile court. Route 192 was a country road he had traveled many times before. He usually liked to stop at some of the antique shops along the way. The reporter really wanted to get Ray's comments before the paper was scheduled to be published the following day. And as the district attorney, Ray did this all the time, but he never picked up his cell phone, and the paper was forced to publish the article without the DA's comment. 12 hours later, around 11:30 that night, Patty started to get worried that Ray still hadn't come home yet. She knew he was going to be late, but she didn't think it would be this late. And she grew even more concerned when all her calls to his cell phone went straight to voicemail. Ray just wasn't the kind of guy to go dark for hours on end. So at this point, she didn't know what to do except call 911 and report him missing to the police. In most cases, the police probably wouldn't take the call seriously. It had only been about 12 hours since anyone heard from him. But Ray wasn't your ordinary citizen. As the county district attorney, he was the top law enforcement official in the area, so the Bellefonte Police Department took Patty's call seriously from the jump. By midnight, a bulletin was issued all throughout the county and surrounding areas to be on the lookout for Ray's car, a red Mini Cooper with a white top. The police also focused their search along Route 192, since that's where Ray had told Patty he was going. Initially, everyone thought the Mini Cooper had broken down, and he was stuck on the side of the road, unable to call for help. Others wondered if he could have been in a car accident and was laid up somewhere in the hospital. But absolutely no sign of Ray or his Mini Cooper was found after searching the entire night. When there was still no word from him by Saturday morning, Patty decided it was time to make a second phone call. This time, it was to Ray's daughter, Laura, who was now 27 years old and living in Washington. And as soon as she got the full story from Patty, she immediately knew something was wrong. She knew her dad wouldn't run off somewhere without telling any of them. So she purchased a one-way plane ticket to Pennsylvania to help with the search. Throughout the day on Saturday, several different police agencies worked together trying to locate any sign of Ray or his car. They also alerted at least 6 nearby states, thinking he might have left the state. Although Ray was a dependable and predictable guy, he was also known to sometimes be a little spontaneous. Steve Sloan, a close friend of Ray's, said that he had once hopped in his Mini Cooper and driven to Cleveland on the drop of a dime to catch a baseball game without telling anyone. By 6:30 that evening, there was a major break in the case. A Pennsylvania state trooper spotted Ray's Mini Cooper. It was found parked and locked in a dirt lot in Lewisburg, a town about 45 miles away. It had been parked right next door to an antique market called the Street of Shops, and right next to the Susquehanna River. But there was no sign of Ray anywhere. Inside the car, investigators found Ray's county-issued cell phone that had been powered off, but his laptop computer, keys, and wallet were noticeably missing, and the car itself was fairly unremarkable, showing no signs of a struggle or foul play. But that didn't mean the car was completely useless. When state police investigators processed it, they found at least 5 sets of fingerprints, but only 3 belonged to Ray. The other 2 have never been identified. Also strange was the fact that investigators found cigarette ash inside the car, but Ray wasn't a smoker. They also found 2 cigarette butts on the ground outside his car, suggesting someone other than Ray had been inside the Mini Cooper recently. But even to this day, we don't know who that person could be. When the cigarette butts were tested for DNA, they didn't match anyone in the system, and they didn't match Ray either. Following the discovery of Ray's car, his friends and family held out hope that he would still be found, and the search continued. But his family started fearing the worst, especially after finding out his car was found near a river. That's because in May 1996, Ray's brother, Roy, was believed to have committed suicide in the Great Miami River. Roy had told his wife he was going to run a few errands but never returned home. 2 days later, his abandoned car was found 40 miles away in Dayton, Ohio. Then a few days after that, they found Roy's body in the river, and the authorities ruled his death a suicide. So when some of Ray's family members, especially his nephew, learned that Ray's Mini Cooper was found parked near a river, some of them started fearing the worst. There were also several people who thought they saw Ray in the street of shops around noon on Saturday, the day after he was reported missing. One witness even said he saw Ray walking with a woman, but no one could identify her. And unfortunately, the antique shop center didn't have any surveillance cameras. So we can only speculate whether the guy these witnesses saw was actually Ray or not. Unlike his brother, Ray didn't have a known or diagnosed history of depression, but that didn't mean suicide could be ruled out. So the next step investigators took was to search the Susquehanna River by air and water. And at the time, the water was fairly shallow, so it shouldn't have been very difficult to see a floating body. But after several days of searching, no sign of Ray in or around the river turned up. The next step involved scent dogs. The state police used highly skilled dogs to go through the parking lot where Ray's car was found. And one of the dogs picked up his scent but couldn't follow it very far, leading the dog's handler to believe Ray had likely gotten into another car at that point. But it was impossible to tell where exactly he had gone after that. Anytime a person goes missing, the police want to know every little detail about their lives. Were they depressed or suicidal? Did they have any known enemies? What were they doing in the days and weeks leading up to their disappearance? Because oftentimes, the answers to those questions hold the key to unlocking a mystery. But Ray's situation was fairly unique. Those closest to him said he was a pretty private person who preferred spending his free time with Patty. He wasn't the type of guy to go for a drink after work with the other lawyers and staff at the office. And he was a very competent and dedicated attorney. The only thing that seemed to stand out was what Patty said about him seeming more tired than usual lately. There were weeks he was at the office for over 70 hours. For most of his time as district attorney, that amount of work didn't bother him. But according to Patty, in the weeks before his disappearance, the long hours seemed to be taking a toll on him. I mentioned a little earlier in the episode that Ray started taking naps after work almost every single day. He also started taking naps while at the office, which was completely out of character for him. There was even a point when Patty told him he should go see a doctor because of how tired he was all the time. So while maybe the 70-hour work weeks didn't bother him when he was younger. Maybe it was starting to take its toll. By Monday morning, the FBI had joined the investigation. They were specifically brought in to analyze his bank accounts, credit card records, and cell phone records. But nothing significant was found there. Following Friday afternoon, there was no activity on any of his accounts or credit cards, and nothing about his financial situation suggested he was in any type of trouble. He might have been spending a little more than his means, but he had plenty of money in various savings accounts. There was also zero activity on his cell phone after Friday's phone call to Patty around 11:30 in the morning. After that call, it had been powered off and never turned back on. As is sometimes the case in missing person investigations, the police received several tips about possible sightings of Ray, and each one of them was fully investigated, but none of them ultimately led anywhere. One of the tips came from a bartender who said he was absolutely positive he saw Ray drinking a beer inside his bar one night. He said he knew it was Ray because he was talking about how much he loved the Cleveland Indians baseball team, which was definitely something Ray would have said. But despite how confident the bartender was, there's no evidence suggesting the man was actually Ray. Then several weeks later, on July 30th, 2005, the police got a massive break in the case. That day, 2 fishermen called the police, saying they found Ray's county-issued laptop floating in the Susquehanna River. By this point in the summer, the water was at its lowest point, so it would have been easily visible. It was also recovered not far from the parking lot where Ray's car had been found weeks earlier. But from an investigative standpoint, the laptop was essentially useless because its hard drive was missing. Whatever secrets or clues it might have held, the police wouldn't get to hear about them just yet. Then, about 2 months later, there was another huge break. On October 25th, 2005, the missing hard drive was found floating in the river by a mother and son who were skipping stones at a spot about 100 yards from where the laptop had been found earlier. But because it had been in the water for so long, none of its data could be extracted. Even the FBI and the Secret Service tried to get data from it and were unsuccessful. The water had completely destroyed it. By the time Ray's laptop and hard drive were discovered, he had been missing for a little over 6 months, and nothing about the investigation so far proved whether he had committed suicide, voluntarily run off, or was the victim of a homicide. If someone had murdered Ray, the police had no idea who they could be. Both Patty and his daughter, Laura, passed polygraph tests, although they were never officially considered suspects. And the police never publicly identified any other suspects or persons of interest. But by 2009, 4 years later, investigators released information that they had been aware of since the beginning, but intentionally withheld it from the public. According to detectives, Patty and several of Ray's colleagues at the DA's office had told police that in the months before he disappeared, he talked about purchasing software to clean up his laptop's hard drive. There were even internet searches found on Patty and Ray's home computer for things like how to wreck a hard drive, how to dry a hard drive, and water damage to a notebook computer. Those details make me wonder whether Ray had information on his work laptop that he didn't want anyone to find. Is that proof Ray had decided to disappear? Or does it suggest he might have been killed because someone else wanted access to whatever was on his laptop? I just don't know. When talking about Ray's disappearance, I don't think anyone can ignore what he did for a living. He had been a prosecutor for more than 30 years. And we all know that the role of a prosecutor isn't always easy or fun. You can easily make a lot of enemies along the way. I'll talk a lot more about that when we get to the theories. In June 2011, Ray's daughter Laura, who was also the trustee of his estate, petitioned the court to have him legally declared dead. By that point, he had been missing for 6 years, and beyond his car, laptop, and hard drive, they had found absolutely nothing indicating he could still be alive. So on July 25th, 2011, the judge granted her request and Ray was declared dead in absentia. Without his body, without knowing what happened to him, without virtually any answers, Ray is considered to be dead. Let's now discuss theories. Because in a case like this, with so many unanswered questions, people have many different ideas on what could have happened to him. The first popular theory is that Ray committed suicide. We already talked about how the police found no signs of a crime or struggle at Ray's Mini Cooper, suggesting he may have just walked away from it. He also left his cell phone behind, suggesting to some that he knew he wouldn't be needing it anymore. It was also intentionally powered down. Then there was Ray's brother, who committed suicide under very similar circumstances just 9 years before. Although Ray never showed any signs of depression, some people wonder whether he might have been quietly suffering. Just because someone doesn't seem or act depressed doesn't mean they aren't dealing with something. Ray very well could have been suicidal or depressed and just not talked about it with anyone. We also know depression can run in families. I think the biggest clue to that could be how tired he was in the weeks leading up to his disappearance. Sometimes exhaustion can be a symptom or sign of depression. I'm not saying that's always the case, but for some people it is. Several months before his disappearance, Ray had announced to friends and family that he planned to retire soon from the DA's office. But some might say that's actually a sign Ray didn't kill himself. Why would he commit suicide if he's just months away from retirement? So many of us work our entire lives just to look forward to retirement. But others think it's possible he was already planning his death and was simply giving his colleagues a heads up they would need to start looking for a replacement. But I'll go back to what I've said a few times now. Investigators found no evidence Ray was suicidal or depressed. People commit suicide for several reasons, some of them being financial trouble, relationship issues, criminal activity. But the police never found any of that, and they dug through every detail of Ray's personal and professional life. It's also impossible to rule suicide in or out because we simply don't have any evidence. We've never been able to recover Ray's body to tell us how exactly he died. He didn't leave behind any suicide notes. And the people who were closest to him said they saw no signs. I also can't understand the missing and damaged hard drive if Ray actually killed himself. Why would he take it out right before he took his own life? Was he trying to hide something even after he was long gone? It just doesn't make much sense to me. From what I could find during my research, it doesn't seem like Ray's family thinks he took his own life. Watching his family go through what they did with his brother's suicide, they just don't think he would have put his daughter through that. He was very family-oriented and loved his daughter more than anything in the world. And the fact that we've never been able to find his body seems to support his family's beliefs. Not only would his suicide have completely devastated his daughter and family, but why would he put them through never finding his body? He must have known that, by jumping in the river, the likelihood of finding his body would be slim to none. So why would he put his family through something like that again? They already went through it just 9 years earlier, and he knew how much it devastated everyone. The second most popular theory is that he voluntarily disappeared. This is also something we touched on a little earlier in the episode. We know Ray decided to skip work and go for a long drive the day he disappeared. So could that have been our biggest clue? Could he have decided to just run away and start a new life somewhere? A lot of the supporting points to this theory are the same we just mentioned. He planned to retire soon. There was no evidence of a struggle, and the hard drive removal appears intentional. So if Ray wanted to voluntarily disappear, maybe he got rid of the hard drive because it would reveal his plans. To me, that makes sense. If he had spent weeks or even months planning his own disappearance, it would make sense that he wouldn't want people to know about it. And what better way to plan your own disappearance than a computer and the internet? He could have quite literally just Googled, "How can I disappear?" or "How to start a new life." But by destroying his laptop's hard drive, we don't know what he searched for on the internet. But let's not ignore the obvious problems with this theory. Number one, if Ray voluntarily disappeared, he didn't take anything with him, not even his money. When the FBI was called in to go through his finances, everything seemed completely normal. There was no evidence that he withdrew any significant amount of money. There was also zero activity on his credit cards. So wherever he went, he seemingly went without any money or credit cards. If I were planning to disappear and start a new life, the first thing I'd consider would be money. You can't get anywhere or do anything without it. So that just doesn't make much sense. Number two, since Ray's disappearance, there have been no confirmed sightings of him. We know there are several witnesses who claim to have seen him, but none of them were actually verified. And I think that's an important detail tied to this theory. If Ray voluntarily left, where did he go? And number three, let's be completely honest. It's extremely difficult to successfully vanish off the face of the earth at the age of 59, or at any age. I know we've talked about voluntary disappearance in other cases, but I can't think of a single successful voluntary disappearance. But I guess that's half the problem. If someone has been successful at disappearing on their own, we wouldn't know about it. But I think we have to at least acknowledge just how hard it would be to completely vanish off the face of the earth and never be heard from by anyone ever again. Theory number three, Ray was murdered. Based on my research for this episode, I think foul play and suicide are the two most popular theories. And here's why many people think Ray was killed. We know that as a district attorney, Ray would have made a lot of enemies along the way. You don't become a successful prosecutor without putting many people behind bars. It's just the nature of the game. So is it possible that someone Ray prosecuted in the past could be responsible for his disappearance? Some people even speculate that Ray's decision not to prosecute Penn State's Jerry Sandusky for child molestation in 1998 had something to do with his disappearance. Although the Sandusky scandal would blow up several years after he went missing, some people wonder if there's more to the story. Could someone have been angry at Ray's decision not to prosecute when allegations were first made against him in 1998? According to court filings, his decision not to charge Sandusky appears to be due to a lack of evidence against him in 1998. And Ray was already missing by the time new allegations against Sandusky were brought forward. So it doesn't seem likely that the two are connected. But that's just one of thousands of cases Ray was involved in during his time as a prosecutor. If you take a step back and think about it, any of his previous defendants could be potential suspects. It just takes one person with a vendetta strong enough to commit murder. Those who believe in the homicide theory point to the cigarette ash and unknown fingerprints found inside Ray's Mini Cooper. We know he wasn't a cigarette smoker, so who could have left the ashes behind? As far as the fingerprints go, those could belong to anyone. Most people have had someone else in their car at least once. So those unknown fingerprints don't necessarily point to foul play. But until they can be identified, we just don't know if they're important or not. However, the homicide theory isn't perfect either. To this day, there's been no evidence linking Sandusky or anyone else to Ray's disappearance, and investigators have repeatedly said they found no evidence supporting that he was murdered. So was he targeted because of his role as a prosecutor? Could he have been murdered by a past criminal defendant? We just don't know. If you have your own theories about what could have happened to him, I'd love to hear them. Make sure you're following the show on social media and share your thoughts with me. It's now been 18 years since Ray went for a drive in his Mini Cooper and vanished. Yet we are still no closer to finding any answers or closure. For years, Ray stood in courtrooms seeking justice for other people. He helped investigate crimes, build cases, and bring answers to families who desperately needed them. But on April 15th, 2005, Ray became the mystery. And almost 2 decades later, the question remains the same. Did he choose to disappear? Did he take his own life? Or did something happen to him after he parked his Mini Cooper in Lewisburg? Until that question is answered, one of Pennsylvania's most respected prosecutors remains one of its most enduring missing persons cases. Ray was 59 years old when he disappeared in 2005. He was last seen wearing a blue fleece jacket, blue jeans, and white sneakers. He has green eyes and graying brown hair. He was 6 feet tall and weighed around 170 pounds. If you have any information regarding his whereabouts, please contact the Belafonte Police Department. Find My Killer is a Rockefeller audio production. The show is written and produced by me, Courtney Fretwell. If you would like to support the show, please consider joining the show's Patreon page. To learn more, please visit patreon.com/findmykiller. Your support helps to fund research, production, and editing costs. In exchange for your support, you'll get early access to ad-free episodes and, coming soon, exclusive bonus content. You can also support the show by subscribing, leaving a positive review, and telling friends and family. Sources for this episode include multiple articles from Medium, written by Jen Baxter, The Charlie Project, Fox 56 News, CNN, and NBC 10 Philadelphia. Thank you so much for listening. Subscribe to Find My Killer on Spotify or wherever you get your favorite shows.